The first red flag that I should have noticed was the grandiose attitude. When I met my husband, well, you have to have the backstory first. We knew of each other through our church. We were acquainted, but we lived in different ends of California. I lived in Southern California. I grew up in Southern California. He lived in Northern California. He grew up in Northern California. We met up when I was probably 18 the first time. I just was talking to the guy and not really thinking much of it. I did like him, I was attracted to him, but we were really like two ends of the state. So we called ourselves dating when I was 18, but it phased out. And next thing I know, we both were married, both had kids, and we both were divorced, I guess you can say, at some point. And then we still talked for 20 years without ever seeing each other, from the point of me being 18 all the way up until year I moved back to California. And then we dated long distance for 1 year, and then we got married. We had mutual church members, mutual acquaintances, so that's how he basically kept in touch with me. I lived in New England for a long period of time, and right before I moved back to California, he contacted me again. But he spoke to me when I lived in Miami. He spoke to me when I lived in New England. Just here and there throughout the years, he would find me and we would just chit chat and catch up. No big deal, in my opinion, because I just wasn't thinking relationship or anything like that. Once I moved back to California, and what should have been my first red flag is the way he described his past to me. He described himself as, I was a millionaire, I owned beauty salons, I traveled, I did this, I have money, I have a home in Napa, California. Had a home because by the time he got with me, he so-called sold it. So I basically was listening because it's just everyone has a past. So I wasn't interested in his money, his lifestyle, his fame, his fortune. I had already knew him before this, and I thought he was a cool dude. All of that didn't faze me, or didn't attract me, or didn't make me feel like, I was getting in a relationship with a person that just knows how to make money. I remember thinking, like, if you're saying all this because you want to look more attractive to me, because you know how to make money, or you own this and that, that's not, I'm about who the person is from inside out. When I had that whole grand story that was overemphasized, which was just bigger than life, the picture that he painted for me, I personally didn't think anything of it, but it should have been a flag. It should have been a flag that, where's the evidence of this lifestyle? Where's the evidence of all this money? There was absolutely nothing to substantiate any of those stories that he told me about his past. Not one outrageous, grand thing in his life that he explained that he had, owned, or did. There was nothing to substantiate it. And that's why I'm doing this series. You have to take into consideration what a person is saying to you and why they're saying what they're saying to you. A narcissistic person, in their head, they're everything in a bag of chips. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm just talking about tips on how to deal with a narcissist, and I'm calling it Tip Tuesday. A little bit of a series that I got going on, and if you want to see more or you enjoy these type of videos, please thumbs up and leave a comment. I want to go ahead and talk about the example of a red flag that I should have seen dealing with a narcissist. And before I get started, the disclaimer is I am not a psychologist. I am not an expert. It's just my experience of living with a narcissist from 2003 all the way up into 2017. And I don't mind breaking down my experience in dealing with a narcissist, living with a narcissist, with you all, and to just kind of have the dialogue going on in the comment section, just to help anyone out there and to prevent anyone from having to be in a relationship with a narcissist. Because for me, I am not damaged, I would say, by it, but it can destroy a person. After I realized I was dealing with a narcissist and I began to do my research, I realized how blessed I am not to be affected by the narcissist like I see a lot of people are. There's a lot of emotional abuse that go along with living with the narcissist. Sometimes there's physical abuse, there's verbal abuse, and it's just these things are devastating to a person that thinks they're in a relationship with a person. You're in a relationship and you're doing everything right, you're playing by the rules, by the book, and you're not getting the proper response back. And the only reason why is because when you're dealing with a narcissist, this is the type of person that is extremely, extremely selfish. They don't care about you, your feelings. In fact, they're incapable on most ends to care about your feelings because they're so engrossed in what they want and what they need. You have to imagine yourself as a supplier. And basically, if you research the narcissist and how they find their victims, they're looking for a supply. And when you can no longer supply them what they need, which is constant admiration, constant praise, and just it's to the point where it's really exhausting. This little tip that I have right now is just to talk about a red flag that you may or may not consider. And you may not consider it because you don't know the person's background, or it just sounds like something that can be true or something that has happened. But there's something about it in addition to the fact that they're sharing a story with you. When the narcissists come into your life, they come in with their best foot forward, the best foot they can find, and put it forward to try to impress you initially. But that's just to get your attention and to see if you're going to be the right type of supply that they need. So they'll come in, and if they're not showering you down with nice gifts and trying to do everything for you and take you places and make sure not only that you see what they do for you, that there are a host of people around you seeing what they're doing for you, what they're buying you, how they're treating you. That's just a setup. Then the second half of that is if the person is telling you all of their life accomplishments. In my case personally, I was told by my narcissistic encounter, I was a millionaire. I lived and bought a home in Napa, California, in which Napa, California is a very expensive place to live. I owned BMWs and Mercedes-Benz and Range Rovers. And they would just tell you about every accomplishment in the most grandest fashion. It's like it would be hyped out like 10 times over. So it wouldn't be like a subtle, I was a millionaire and by way of this thing that I patent, and it went really well, and I lost that money, or I did have the experience of buying a home in Napa, but I no longer own the home. They talk about it to the point where all they're doing is but trying to make you see them as something that they're not. And that is pretty much everything that they would like to be, want to be, wish they were, but they're nowhere near any of that. I didn't question any of it because I feel like everybody have a past, and whether you succeeded in the past and you lost things, or how whatever, I was just dealing with you from the simple fact I knew you way back then, and we were just getting reacquainted, and I liked you back then, so we just started dating. But when a person want to tell you all about everything they've done, they've traveled the world, they've had this, they've had that, they own this, they're that, they're great, they're wonderful, and it's just blah, 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 all about them. And there's nothing to substantiate it. I didn't even really think about it because I lived out of the state and he lived, and when I did come back to California, he still lived in Northern California. I have no way of knowing if these things were true or not, which it didn't bother me if they were, or I wasn't impressed whether it was true or not. I just was thinking that I'm starting my life out with a person that I knew when I was a teenager. And it turned out to be absolutely 110% not the case. But in the narc's mind, that is the case. They are that, they were that, they had that, or whatever. And I don't care if they had it for a split second. When they tell you, try to explain to you that they were a millionaire, they make it sound they were millionaires for years in and years out. So, all in all, I did feel a sense of something's not quite right with this story. Although I was just dealing with him at face value, and like I said, it didn't matter to me whether what you possessed before. I was just going back from when I used to like you as a teenager, not realizing everybody's changed. This is like 20 years in between the time we so-called were dating. I didn't really take into consideration he would be deceiving to me. When I asked about the house, he goes, yeah, I just sold the house, it was too big. People were wanting to come and live with me and live off me, and they didn't want to contribute, and just stories. So they sound like real legit stories, but there's still something about it that's just not quite right. So on the moral of the story is grandiose is part of the trait of a narc. They'll just visualize themselves and everything they do to be just way bigger than what it actually is, and what the average person would talk about their success. So if you got a person that's been everywhere, seen everything, have this, have that, but when you ask them to manifest or give an example or show something that will prove that what they're saying they had been or done, and they can't provide it, then you have to step back and wonder, like, is this in this dude's head, or is this in this lady's head? And yes, it is. It's not actually anything that is a reality. It's like such a delusion. So that would be something of a red flag. And then I don't think outside of a narcissist, a person is like that. But like I always say, you have to combine several things in order to just several traits in order to kind of tie it into, yes, this is a possible narcissist. No, this is just human behavior. This is just a person who lies a lot, a person who brags, or whatever. So you don't just take one thing. But this is one thing that I experienced, and of course, there were many others that we can talk about. And the conclusion of the whole matter is I was dealing with a full-fledged narcissistic personality, and I had to get out of the relationship because the narc is not capable of loving you, not capable of reciprocating, doesn't have empathy, doesn't care about anybody but themselves. And the day you decide to do anything that is not going according to their plan is the day that they start to find another source. You no longer become a supplier, and they will go and find somewhere else to supply the needs that they have, which is to be praised, to be doted on, to be complimented, to be talked about, anything to just keep the attention on them. I hope I made sense about at least anything that I just said. I hope I made sense, because I still feel overwhelmed with the topic, but it's not like I feel hurt or anything like that. I feel frustrated that, I wasted time in a relationship with a person, trying to be a good wife, trying to be a good stepmother, trying to provide the needs for my husband, and to realize that it was chalked up that you were looked at just as something, a supply, like something disposable. I don't know, you just weren't treated the way you would if you were in a relationship with a non-narc person. All right. I feel like this is all over the place, and I apologize, but I hope you at least got something out of this. And if you did, please leave me a comment and let me know you understand what I'm saying. And if you could explain it better, leave the comment so someone who's reading it can just understand the term grandiose when it relates to a narcissist. All right, see you on my next video.